Have you ever felt disconnected from what once brought you joy? Moments that used to fill you with excitement, passion, and purpose now seem distant, like faint echoes from another life. You're not alone in this feeling. In fact, this experience is more common than you might think, especially for those on a spiritual journey. What if I told you that this emptiness, this loss of connection, is not a sign of failure but rather the beginning of something profound? The universe, or perhaps God, is calling you to a deeper understanding. You are not lost. You are being guided. The truth is, moments of discouragement are often disguised as turning points, necessary pauses before significant spiritual breakthroughs. It's in these quiet, uncomfortable spaces that transformation begins. And maybe, just maybe, you've been prepared for this very moment, for a purpose far greater than you realize. But how do you navigate this? How do you find purpose when the joy seems to have faded? There comes a time in every spiritual journey when the things that once brought pleasure, whether it's hobbies, work, or even relationships, start to feel hollow. It's as if the very fabric of what once made life meaningful has unraveled. This sensation of losing joy can be unsettling, but I want to offer you a new perspective. This isn't a failure or a sign that something has gone wrong. In fact, it's a call for deeper alignment with your soul's true purpose. You see, the loss of pleasure is often a sign that your spirit is outgrowing the external sources of fulfillment it once relied on. What you're experiencing isn't a breakdown, it's a breakthrough in disguise. The universe has gently nudged you into a space where you're being called to seek a higher meaning, something that resonates on a deeper spiritual level. Let's look at some examples from spiritual teachings. Consider Moses, a man who once lived in the luxury of Pharaoh's palace, surrounded by every possible comfort. Yet, his calling wasn't in the pleasures of Egypt. It was in the wilderness, in the moments of solitude and doubt, where Moses found his divine purpose. He had to leave behind the familiar, the pleasurable, to discover the mission that was truly his. Or think of Joseph, sold into slavery by his own brothers, later thrown into prison. Every earthly comfort was stripped away. But in those moments of loss and discouragement, he was being prepared for something far greater, a role that would ultimately save nations. His crisis of purpose was not an end, but the beginning of his transformation. What you're going through now is no different. You, too, are on a sacred journey. The universe is aligning your path for something greater than the fleeting pleasures of the world. The emptiness you feel is a signpost, pointing you toward a higher calling, something more fulfilling than what you've known before. But how do we make sense of these empty moments? What is their spiritual significance? Let's dive into that next. Because those empty moments? They're not just random, they're moments of preparation. These empty moments you are experiencing, the times when life feels like a vast, uncharted void, are not moments of defeat. They are moments of deep spiritual preparation. In these valleys of life, the soul undergoes transformation, just as it did for so many spiritual figures before us. Consider the powerful metaphor in Psalm 23. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. The valley represents a low point, a period of trial and uncertainty, but it's also a place of protection, guided by a divine presence. The valley is not meant to destroy you. Instead, it is where you are shielded, nurtured, and most importantly, prepared for your next ascent. These moments of emptiness are like the wilderness that Moses wandered for 40 years. It was during this time, far removed from the pleasures and distractions of Egypt, that Moses developed the strength, wisdom, and faith necessary to lead a nation to freedom. The desert wasn't a punishment, it was a place of profound growth. The same can be said for Jesus, who spent 40 days in the wilderness, tempted, tested, and ultimately strengthened for his mission. You see, the universe or divine force often leads those on the path of spiritual awakening through their own version of the desert or valley. In these barren landscapes of your soul, where nothing seems to bloom, you are being prepared. Just like gold is refined in fire, your spirit is being refined in these moments of stillness and solitude. Romans 8 verse 28 reminds us that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. This is a promise that even the hardest, most desolate times in our lives are woven into the divine plan. These empty moments, the ones that feel so void of pleasure and purpose, are actually where your spirit is being prepared for something greater. Think about it. What if these moments of stillness are where your greatest transformation is taking place? What if the joy you once found in fleeting pleasures is being replaced by something eternal, something infinitely more fulfilling? The emptiness, then, is not the end but the beginning of a profound journey. And when you emerge from this valley, you will not be the same. You will be stronger, clearer in your purpose, and more connected to the divine plan for your life. Now, let's talk about rediscovering pleasure, not in the external, but in the most sacred space of all, God's presence. This is where true joy, the kind that no earthly pleasure can match, awaits you. In a world that constantly pushes us to seek joy in external things, success, relationships, material possessions, it's easy to lose sight of where true pleasure comes from. But as you may be sensing now, genuine joy is not found in the temporary, fleeting moments of worldly achievement. It comes from something far more profound, the presence of God, the source of all joy and fulfillment. Psalm 16 verse 11 reminds us, "You will show me the path of life. In your presence is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore." Notice the word fullness, not just a fleeting feeling, but a deep, overflowing joy that fills every corner of your being. This joy doesn't depend on your circumstances, your achievements, or even your sense of direction in life. It comes from a place of communion with the divine. When was the last time you paused in silence, seeking not answers, but connection with the sacred? Sometimes, in our pursuit of meaning, we forget that true pleasure and joy come from the simplicity of being in the presence of the divine. In that space, we're not required to be anything other than who we are, beloved, cherished, chosen. Prayer and meditation are powerful ways to reconnect with this divine presence. They are not just rituals or obligations, but invitations to step into a sacred space where the soul can find peace and joy. It is in these quiet moments that the world fades away and the true essence of who you are, your spirit, can be restored. Imagine sitting in silence, breathing in the presence of God, letting the weight of the world slip away. You are reminded that no matter how empty life feels, no matter how disconnected you may have become from the things that once brought you happiness, there is always fullness waiting for you in God's presence. Consider spiritual practices like walking in nature, reading sacred texts, or simply offering a moment of gratitude each day. These are ways to step into the presence of the divine, to realign yourself with the joy that is available to you at all times. Each practice is a doorway back to your spiritual home, where you can rediscover the joy and pleasure that transcends the ups and downs of life. But there's more to this journey of rediscovering joy. As you reconnect with God's presence, you'll begin to realize that this reconnection is not a coincidence. It's part of a larger, divine plan. You are being prepared for something significant, something only the chosen ones are called to. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to face extraordinary challenges, as if life itself is pushing them towards something greater? If you're experiencing this, it's not by accident. You are one of the chosen ones, those who are called to fulfill a special purpose. And yes, this purpose often comes through crisis. It's a part of your divine calling. Throughout history, those who have been chosen for great missions have walked through periods of deep struggle. These aren't just stories. They're spiritual truths that reveal how crises refine and shape us for the work we are meant to do. Think of Joseph, sold into slavery by his own brothers, falsely imprisoned, and left forgotten for years. It would have been easy to believe that his life was over. But what seemed like a series of tragic events was actually a divinely orchestrated path. Every hardship Joseph faced was a step toward his ultimate purpose, becoming a leader who would save an entire nation from famine. Or consider Moses, a man who fled into the wilderness after making a terrible mistake in Egypt. He spent years in exile, far removed from the world he once knew, thinking he had lost everything. But during those years in the desert, Moses was being prepared for something greater. When the time came, he was called to lead his people out of slavery, a monumental mission that changed the course of history. Even Jesus, who was perfect in every way, faced 40 days of temptation in the wilderness. This period of isolation and testing was not a punishment, but a necessary preparation for the greater work he was about to embark on. These stories show us a profound truth. Crisis is not a sign of abandonment. It's a sign of preparation. When you are chosen for something greater, the universe, or God, puts you through moments that stretch you, challenge you, and refine you. These moments of hardship are where your true strength and character are revealed. If you are going through a season of emptiness, confusion, or hardship, take heart. It's not a random occurrence. You are being prepared, just as Joseph, Moses, and even Jesus were. The universe is aligning events in your life to mold you into the person you need to become in order to fulfill your destiny. This might sound daunting, but remember, you are not alone in this journey. The divine is with you every step of the way, guiding you through the wilderness and into your purpose. You were never meant to stay in the valley. You are destined to rise. And this, my friend, leads us to the next crucial lesson: understanding life's cycles. For just as the seasons change, so do our spiritual seasons. Embracing these cycles is key to stepping into your greater purpose. Just as the earth moves through seasons of growth and rest, so too does your soul. Life unfolds in cycles, and understanding this truth can bring you deep peace and acceptance. There are times of abundance and joy, followed by times of quiet reflection or challenge. Each phase has its purpose, and each prepares you for the next. The wisdom of Ecclesiastes 3 verse 1 reminds us, "To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven." This timeless truth invites us to embrace the natural rhythms of life, the ups and the downs, the moments of clarity, and the moments of uncertainty. When we stop resisting these cycles and instead lean into them, we begin to see that every phase of life is working together for our good. In the same way that nature cannot rush its seasons, we too must allow ourselves to flow with the divine timing of our lives. There is a time for growth, and there is a time for rest. There is a time to plant, and there is a time to harvest. The challenges you face are not permanent states. They are temporary, part of the sacred rhythm that leads you to deeper wisdom and spiritual growth. It is easy to feel frustration during moments of waiting, especially in a world that demands constant progress and productivity. But the seasons of waiting, or what might feel like stagnation, are just as important as the seasons of action. They are times when the soul regenerates, when new seeds are planted beneath the surface, waiting to sprout when the time is right. Think of the winter season, cold, still, and often perceived as lifeless. Yet beneath the frozen ground, there is life preparing to bloom when spring arrives. Your soul moves in a similar way. When you face times of emptiness or difficulty, it is not a sign of failure but an essential part of your journey. These are the times when deeper growth is happening, even if you cannot see it yet. Accepting life's cycles means trusting the process. It means knowing that the difficult seasons will give way to renewal, just as night gives way to dawn. When you embrace this truth, you allow yourself to be at peace, even in the middle of life's storms. You understand that everything is unfolding exactly as it should, according to a divine plan that has been laid out for you. But why do the chosen ones, in particular, go through these intense cycles of growth, challenge, and renewal? The answer lies in the role of the spiritual desert, a place where deep transformation happens. The spiritual desert is a profound and often misunderstood phase of the journey. It is a place of silence, isolation, and, at times, deep spiritual struggle. But for those who are chosen, those who carry a divine purpose, it is also a place of transformation and preparation. In the Bible, the desert is a recurring symbol of spiritual growth. It is where some of the most significant transformations happen. Moses spent 40 years in the desert after fleeing Egypt, only to return as a leader who would free his people. Jesus himself was led into the desert for 40 days, where he fasted, prayed, and was tempted, preparing him for his public ministry. The desert represents a space where external distractions are stripped away, leaving only the essential, your connection to the divine and your purpose. So, why does the spiritual desert appear in your life? Because you are being prepared. You are being called into a deeper relationship with God, and the distractions of the world need to fall away for this transformation to take place. In the desert, there is no noise, no comfort, no easy answers. There is only you and the divine. This is where the chosen ones learn to listen, not with their ears, but with their spirit. It is in this sacred silence that God refines and reshapes you. You may feel lost, as though you've been abandoned in this spiritual wilderness, but nothing could be further from the truth. The desert is not a place of abandonment, it's a place of intimacy with the divine. It's where you are taught to rely fully on God, where you shed old layers of your identity that no longer serve you, and where your true purpose is revealed. The chosen ones are not spared from the desert. In fact, they are often led there because their calling requires it. The spiritual desert is where your strength, resilience, and faith are tested and fortified. Without this testing, you might not be fully equipped to step into the greatness you are destined for. The challenges you face in this desert are not meant to break you, they are meant to awaken you. Think of the Israelites' journey through the desert on their way to the Promised Land. The desert was not a punishment, but a necessary part of their transformation. It was in the desert that they learned to trust God, where they were provided with manna from heaven, and where they were shaped into a people ready to enter a land of promise. Likewise, your own spiritual desert is a time of preparation for what is to come. You are being molded, refined, and ready for your greater purpose. And just like the Israelites, you will emerge from this desert stronger, clearer, and more connected to your divine mission. As you walk through this desert, it's important to embrace spiritual practices that keep you grounded and connected. Practices like prayer, meditation, and reflection are crucial tools that will guide you through this period of transformation. Let's explore these spiritual practices next and how they can restore pleasure and joy in your life. As you journey through the spiritual desert, you may feel moments of emptiness, but it is during these times that spiritual practices become your anchor. These practices aren't merely tasks to check off a list. They are sacred tools that reconnect you to the divine, restoring the joy and pleasure that only God's presence can provide. One of the most powerful practices you can engage in is prayer. Prayer is more than speaking words. It's an intimate conversation with God. In prayer, you pour out your heart, your doubts, your fears, and even your joys, knowing that you are heard. It is in this sacred exchange that burdens are lifted, and your spirit is renewed. When you sit in the stillness of prayer, you allow God's peace to flow into you, replacing the anxiety and emptiness with a deep sense of purpose and belonging. Another profound practice is meditation. Meditation allows you to quiet the mind and open your heart to hear the gentle whispers of the universe. In a world filled with noise and distractions, meditation is where you find clarity and reconnect with your inner self. It is a practice of deep listening not just with your ears, but with your soul. As you meditate, focus on scriptures or affirmations that remind you of your divine purpose, such as Psalm 46 verse 10. Be still, and know that I am God. In this stillness, you'll find that joy isn't something you chase. It's something that arises naturally when you align with the divine. Reading sacred texts is another way to restore your connection to joy. The Bible, or other spiritual writings, are full of wisdom that speaks directly to the soul. These words are alive and transformative, providing guidance, comfort, and insight for your journey. Take time each day to reflect on passages that speak to where you are on your path. For example, Psalm 16 verse 11, which reminds us, "In your presence is fullness of joy," can serve as a gentle reminder that true pleasure comes from spiritual alignment. Lastly, one of the most beautiful ways to restore joy is through serving others. When you step out of your own struggles to help someone else, you experience the joy of connection. Acts of service, no matter how small, remind you that your life has meaning and purpose beyond your current circumstances. Whether it's a kind word, a simple gesture, or volunteering your time, these acts of love allow God's joy to flow through you. As you give, you receive, and the emptiness you once felt is filled with a deeper, more enduring sense of fulfillment. Each of these practices invites you to step into the fullness of God's presence, where lasting pleasure and joy reside. They guide you back to the truth that you are not alone, and that joy is always available to you, even in the midst of challenges. But why is it that the chosen ones, like yourself, are called to such spiritual disciplines? Because you are not just being called to joy for yourself, you are being called to a greater purpose. This is not just about finding your own happiness, It's about stepping into the divine mission that you were created for. Every challenge, every moment of doubt, and every desert you walk through has led you to this very moment, because you are being called to a greater purpose. This is no coincidence. The universe, or God, has been carefully guiding you through each step, preparing you for something that transcends personal joy. You are part of a larger, divine plan. Ephesians 2 verse 10 says, "For we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do." This means that your life has been designed with a purpose, a mission that only you can fulfill. You were not just meant to experience joy and pleasure for yourself. You were meant to be a light in this world, to live out a calling that touches the lives of others. But here's the truth: the call to a greater purpose often comes through moments of hardship. The spiritual deserts, the valleys of doubt, and the times of emptiness are not wasted. They are moments of preparation. You are being molded and shaped for a mission that will bring not only personal fulfillment, but also impact the lives of those around you. Think of the chosen ones who came before you. Joseph endured years of slavery and imprisonment, yet his trials prepared him to save entire nations during a famine. Moses spent decades in exile before leading his people to freedom. These weren't random hardships. They were critical to their growth and to the fulfillment of their divine missions. The same is true for you. The moments of crisis and emptiness you've experienced were never meant to break you. They were designed to awaken you, to align you with the higher purpose you are destined to fulfill. You are being called, not just to live an ordinary life, but to step into a role that will transform both you and those around you. But how do you answer this call? By continuing to seek God's guidance, by staying connected to the practices that restore your joy, and by trusting that every step of your journey, both the highs and the lows, has been perfectly orchestrated. You are ready. The universe has prepared you for this moment. All you need to do is say yes to your calling. As you move forward on this path, remember, you are not walking it alone. Divine guidance is with you every step of the way, leading you toward fulfillment. Your life has a purpose far greater than you may yet understand, but it is unfolding, and you are ready to embrace it. Now, as you stand on the brink of this new chapter, let's reflect on how you can find your way back to the fulfillment and joy that comes from walking in alignment with your divine purpose. Every challenge and moment of doubt has led you here. You are not lost. You're exactly where you need to be. This is your time to reconnect with your divine purpose and find the joy that comes from walking in alignment with the universe's plan. Remember, fulfillment isn't in external success, but in your connection with the divine and the calling you were created for. Your journey is far from over. There's so much more waiting for you. If you're ready to keep growing and discovering the signs that the universe is guiding you to something bigger, be sure to subscribe and join our community. We're here to walk this path together. And when you're ready to go deeper into recognizing the signs that you're being called to a higher purpose, head over to our next video. You might be surprised at just how prepared you already are for what's coming next. The universe is speaking to you. Are you ready to listen?